Hello and welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Emily.
And today we are going to talk about
Trolls, parts 1 and 2.
Oh, you missed it. You missed
You let
it.
me say stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
You know, I almost did that. Did not feel like giving you that for some reason.
Well, that's fine. We've probably done that enough. Maybe we need to find something else to talk about other than stuff and things.
I like Trolls part 1 and 2.
Well, I guess this
Yes, it will.
Trolls part 1 and 2. This will be part 1. But before we talk about Trolls, why don't we go through it real quick? What's new? And yeah.
Well, I can start.
Do it.
Well, I got a couple things. Today is Prince Day, so I just wanted to give a shout out to the Purple Yoda to thank him for a funky time. But that's not really what's new. I just wanted to mention that. What's new with me is I played my my first country music showcase, had a blast. And then earlier this week, I played a little show with my friend Stephanie Ann Johnson. So I've just been playing all kinds of guitar stuff, and it's felt really good.
All
It's
them
been a
gigs.
while. All them gigs.
Sounds like a good time.
It's a funky time.
Funky. Did you just call, by the way, did you refer to Prince as the Funky Yoda?
The Purple Yoda, and he referred to
Yoda.
himself as that in a song. He did a hype song for the Minnesota Vikings, and there's a line in it, "From the heart of Minnesota, here comes the Purple Yoda." Let this. He wasn't like the best lyricist in the world, but he was a fun one.
That's so strange. I wonder when Disney's going to try and collect on that.
Never, because I don't think that. I think you can refer. That's not how copyrights work.
Well, the mouse has its ways.
The mouse is. If the mouse is gonna. The thing is, I don't think that song was ever even officially released to buy.
So it's not like there's any royalties to cash in on.
I mean, there's some I assume they probably play it at Viking games or used to, and I know that the public radio station there, The Current, which I just listen to a lot, period, because it's a great public radio station, and I like that kind of thing. They play it sometimes, like when they're doing their Prince marathons. Eventually, they'll bust that one out. I'm sure they had one today, but I didn't listen.
How dare you?
Well, I was listening to his newest release, which is it's called Originals, and so when Prince would give a song to somebody, like he gave Manic Monday to the Bangles, and things like that, he would record first guide vocals, and even if the song was from the perspective of a woman, and he's referring himself to as a woman, he would just do the guide vocals so they would know kind of what sort of inflections to do, and most of those apparently still exist. So
crazy.
I think, yeah, of the stuff in the vault, those are some of the things I'm most excited about. Yeah. So I've been listening to that today.
Well, I guess that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. What about you, Andrew? What's new with you?
I have spent most of my evening making marinade for carne asada.
Ooh, that sounds good.
You can't have any. I'm sorry. There is soy involved.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm so offended. Gosh, why do people keep doing this?
Well, I could probably someday make it without the soy. It wouldn't quite be as good because I think it's an essential ingredient to the recipe that I have concocted. I say concocted because I can't say I created the recipe because I started with building blocks on someone else's recipe and I've just tweaked on it a whole bunch to get it to my preferred liking. But I think that it's pretty decent carne asada.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was out earlier getting some of the final ingredients for it, and I realized I don't have any gloves in my kitchen right now, like food gloves, and I couldn't find any at Safeway. And so after Safeway, I was getting pizza at Papa Murphy's, and like, oh, 2 pizzas for Andrew. I'm like, oh, that's me. Like, here you go. Is there anything else we can do for you today? And I was like, Actually, yeah, this is gonna sound really strange, but could I have a pair of gloves? And the poor lady, she was so incredibly nice about it, but she definitely looked at me like I was smoking something in the store. It was kind of humorous. And there was a lady sitting next to me on the bench, like a little waiting bench in front of Papa Murphy's, and
Uh-huh.
she was just like staring so awkwardly. I didn't want to explain what I needed the gloves for. I just kind of left it hanging out there and there, and yeah, it was kind of awkward.
Yeah, that sounds a little awkward.
Um, but I mean, I did it. I kind of just went for it. Pretty shameless, and they gave me a pair of gloves, so I was able to handle all my spicy peppers just fine without having to worry about destroying my eyes later.
Yeah, that's pretty important. And if you have any like cuts on your hands,
Yeah, well, that's just pain. I can
or
deal with
like
pain.
hang nails, and what's happening to your eyes is more than pain. It's organ damage.
Yeah, I've had some nasty run-ins in the past with pepper residue on my hands,
Yeah, I mean,
and that
I've eaten hot chicken, and yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
there's
I get
just a
it.
number of ways that could end poorly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, we're doing a barbecue cookout tomorrow, celebrating a family member's celebration of sorts, and I
Okay,
would
like a celebration of life.
no, not like that.
Okay, that's cryptic as hell, but I'll let it
Oh
pass.
no, it's a family member graduated college last month, and then it's a college graduation with friends and family.
Why'd you make it so cryptic?
I don't know.
Yeah, if you're listening, comment on the Instagram post whether or not that was hella cryptic.
It was really cryptic because I sometimes I'm like, well, I can share certain things, and like, well, this isn't my information to share. I don't know, and I get really I don't know. Anyway, so someone graduated. It's very exciting, and I was slated, asked personally to make tacos. So I'm doing a full taco
Mm,
bar with I'm doing carne asada, carnitas, and then my own twist on just like a grilled taco chicken.
nice. I
So
respect
it'll be
that.
fun.
Yeah.
Make my salsa and my pico from scratch.
Mm,
The
I
only way to do
respect
it.
that too. Yeah, it really is.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time, and it's supposed to be thunderstorming, so that'll be fun.
Not tomorrow. It's supposed to thunderstorm today, but tomorrow's supposed to be nice.
Last night, maybe I checked a few days ago. I said it was supposed to the forecast was rain and thunderstorms, and I'm supposed to be cooking this all over charcoal in the backyard. I'm like,
Huh.
well, this is going to be interesting.
Well,
So we'll see how
charcoal,
it
there's your
goes.
problem. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. It is supposed to be nicer tomorrow.
Good.
Though it was supposed to be really crappy today, and apparently it was where my brother is, but it was really nice up here. My mom came up um just after lunch to hang out and watch TV and go to dinner. And it rained here a little, like drizzled, but the thunderstorms all went south of us, which was pretty neat.
I didn't see it because I was indoors, but someone was telling me it was hailing like marble-sized hail
Oh Lord, I'm glad I missed
over
that.
on this side of things.
Yeah.
So
Yikes.
yeah. So, but
Yeah.
other than that, almost done moving, and well, that's a lie. That's a big lie. I'm almost done preparing my mind to start moving.
That makes sense. Cool. Well, let's change the subject.
Yeah, so this is going to be a two-part episode, and instead of us talking for almost the entire episode about cats and stuff and drinks and things, yeah, why don't we just get into this? We've got some really exciting things going on for this episode. We've
Yeah.
got some special interviews of sorts, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But
Yeah.
the subject of today is trolling,
And this
and
is not like the Trolls 2 kind of trolls, which weren't even trolls.
woohoo!
You clipped real bad.
Let me stand. Let's try that again. Woohoo!
That was worse.
I stepped back like a foot. Let me try this
I'm
one more
telling
time.
you, dude, your mic is hot tonight.
Woohoo!
Still clipped.
Woohoo!
Just stop. Just stop
Oh my
trying.
goodness. Well,
Like,
anyways, I'm loud.
have some self-respect. Yeah.
I, you know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not though. I'm really not sorry.
Yeah. But just because something is not physically a troll doesn't mean you can't be a troll.
This is true, and
Yes.
so
Most trolls are just people.
or bots, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know
sometimes they're bots. But sometimes what we refer to as a bot is like just a fake account that's still run by a real person that's just like in some other country that hates America.
that's not a bot though. That's just a fake account.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think this whatever. Well, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about
We're not talking about bots. We're
we're not
talking
talking about
about
yeah, real people behind a keyboard saying nasty nasty things to you on the internet.
yeah. So the whole we're gonna get into this. We got a series of questions we're gonna go through to guide through this conversation. But why don't we start off with the basics of at least at this side of the conversation in our minds, what is a troll? What does it constitute? And kind of what are some ways that we have experienced trolls in the gear industry specifically?
Yeah.
Just thinking, we'll talk about that for a couple of quick minutes, and then we get to the interviews. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Nose goes.
All right. So, trolls, as I said before, they're those people who will just comment on posts, videos, threads, things like that. And later on, one of our guests will get into more specifically. She gives a lot of detail on like the different kinds of trolls because there are different kinds. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, because like there's the know-it-all, the person who's just being a jackass. There's like the sexist troll as she gets into as well. There's there are a couple trolls out there who are like I would say benevolent trolls who they just kind of like to poke and prod and like tease in a way that sort of it feels like if you're there a lot, like it starts to feel just like a less than gentle ribbing, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
you're getting into the type of trolls already. How about I'm gonna suppose, not propose. I'm going to suppose a definition for what exactly trolling
Yeah,
is.
yeah, please do because I can't read your mind.
I know. That would be really yeah. That's side note. That's a fear of mine that like other people around me can like read my mind.
I knew
It's like a
that.
slight. It's like a slight Truman. Hey, it's like a slight like almost Truman Show esque kind of wondering in the back of my head that pops up every
Mm,
once in a while.
yeah.
But anyways, no. So trolling is uninvited uh, communication over social media that
Hmm.
comes in typically vulgar, forward, mean spirited,
Inappropriate. Yeah.
inappropriate, and I mean we can get into this a little bit. And a little bit of research that we've done and kind of my experience is the what a troll is trying to accomplish is get a rise out of other people for
Yeah.
the sake of enjoyment, and that's not always the case. And
Yeah.
some trolls exhibit and behavior and are after more of a malicious intent. And researchers and the research that I've done for this episode, researchers have gone into uh, studies of people who are self-professed trolls and then control studies and kind of gone all over it. And a
Yeah.
lot of the behaviors of so especially the more intense trolls are closely aligned with definitions of sociopathic behavior. And so I think that's really interesting. I think that's important to know as we get into this is that there's definitely a certain point of where we're not just talking about someone's having some fun and we're talking about this is sociopathic. This is really dangerous and not okay.
Well, that's
And
comforting as someone who's
right.
experienced trolls.
Well, I think that's important to know as we listen to these interviews and as we hear from people's experience that there is a certain point where it's not exactly safe.
Yeah.
And we can hear a little bit more about that later. But there is a range, but it's what there's something that the troll wants. The troll
Yeah.
wants some kind of response. They either want just something to make them laugh. They want to get other people riled up, or they want to get other people like really hurt other people.
Right.
And I think it's that hurting other people is where we really get to the deep
The
dark.
bad stuff.
But
I mean,
your garden variety
yeah.
troll.
Yeah. I've had trolls in the past couple years or so even. Like they were so bad when I was young, and I think that's pretty common. There was this like website where you could make polls when I was a kid, and you could divide it by your school. And there was a poll in there that was literally a, do you think Emily Harris is a bitch? And
Ooh,
like that was some garden variety like online harassment. Like that's like the bread and butter of it, really. And
right,
I was
right.
little, and now I look back and kind of laugh, like kids are the absolute worst. But I mean, it did hurt me at the time, and the things that have happened more recently, I thought were scary more than anything. When you I mean, I think that people who listen to this podcast know at this point that I'm outspoken about making this community that is the gear community more welcoming for women. And there was an instance where I was in a group and I referred to a certain type of post as not as sexist but as unwelcoming to women. And I don't really feel like I was necessarily talking about objectification or whatever of women, but these people who ran this at the behest of their top guy um, came after me and found screenshots that I made in other groups that referred to my body, my breasts, namely, in a non-sexual way, really, and took that and put it back on their group and accused me of like self-objectifying with no remorse. Never got an apology from the person who runs this organization, and lots of people give this person money, but that's fine. Uh, and that actively scared me because they were so quickly willing to take something out of context that wasn't even sexual. It's just a joke, and if I'm not allowed to joke about my own body, then I, damn, that sucks.
Right, right. Well, and that's definitely a unique interaction with a quote unquote troll. I think
That's not
I'm not
unique.
even
Hey,
sure.
hey, don't call
No,
that
no, no,
unique. No, 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 no.
no. I'm saying in the sense that that was almost on a personal level. Where a lot of trolling I've seen is all like not anonymous, but not like you don't know the person, you're not aware of them, you're not. I don't know. Maybe I am completely off base here. I
You're
don't
off
have.
base, brother. I
All
like,
right.
yeah. I mean, I don't think every person has experienced that kind of troll who will follow them around to everything that they do. But you and I both know more than one person this has happened to, and
Right,
like
right. Well,
mutual people, and who were basically afraid to do this episode for their own safety, and I don't blame them. Like a couple people
right,
out to, like more than one or two, said, "Oh, I'd love to talk about that, but I have active litigation against a specific person."
right, right. And I, admittedly, I haven't had that experience, and I also haven't. You're the one that conducted the interviews on the side of this, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing that and having my eyes open a little bit. So, full
Yeah.
disclosure for this episode, you're going to be getting a lot of really fresh, hot takes from me
Mhm.
throughout the whole thing. My experience is more on the lighthearted side of things, and even on the side where like I've participated in some good lighthearted trolling,
Oh yeah, me
in the sense.
too.
I mean, and on that, on the very like milk toast end of the spectrum, it's really just like posting something inflammatory just to get a rise out of someone because it's funny.
But that's not always
And
bad. Sometimes like people need a certain reaction or have their views challenged in order to
right,
grow. I think that
well,
happens a
it's
lot with
tongue in
brands.
cheek, and
Yeah.
I think that is, uh, if we're even going to call that trolling, that is by far the. I think that's well into a realm that's harmless. That's just some good fun, tongue in cheek,
That's
sarcastic ass
yeah.
humor.
The benevolent
Um,
troll, I like to call them.
I'm not sure if it's benevolent, but
If
maybe
you're
benign
Aaron
troll.
benign, but if you're Aaron Abubo, I mean, he sees himself as a benevolent troll. He'll go into like he got banned from Gear Talk Praise and Worship for posting too much like Gear Supply Company humor and stuff. And like people, I don't know, man, like they took that
Right, right.
so
And I
seriously.
really, they did, and not whatever. It's their group. I'm not going to comment on that, but yeah, I mean that there's that level, and I would go as far as to say that there's no reason for that to be considered an issue
Yeah.
on that basic most basic level. And that's where 98% of my personal experience has been. I've been relatively untouched,
Yeah. And I think
shockingly.
that you'll find a
Um,
little divide, like a something A common theme, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the common theme is going to be that not everyone's experience is the same,
Yeah.
and just because you've got one experience doesn't mean you can use that as a basis to
Hmm.
judge other people's experience, as
Yeah.
we've learned already this episode with me putting my foot in my mouth.
Oh, totally.
Um,
With that, do you want to go ahead and get into the introductions? Just so the listeners know, these interviews were all recorded separately. We asked a couple
they were.
people the same, similar, if not the same questions. And I was very excited with how different their responses were. So I'm going to get started with these intros.
Let's do, and I've never heard these before, so I really can't wait to listen in.
Yeah. So this is just quickly.
So I'm Mike Trombley, owner and engineer at Native Audio.
Mike. All right. Next one.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. I'm from 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar podcast / YouTube channel. I do demos and reviews and stuff on the YouTube channel, and we get plenty of comments on there from regular people and trolls alike.
Next up.
My name is Julie Robbins, and I'm the CEO of Earthquaker Devices.
I know you're excited about that one, Andrew.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Clark. I repair guitars, and I also operate an online publication called Guitars and Caffeine.
Now, I just want to make a quick note about Chelsea. Is that one of the reasons I reached out to her is because she has spoken about this topic at length. So she's also one of the two people who just recorded on their own. So her responses are going to be a little bit longer, but they're so well thought out and completely worth listening to in
I am
full.
so hyped for this. I'm really excited for the folks that we got to interview for this.
Yeah.
And just shout out to them. Thank you all for being so rad.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, Ryan, Julie, Chelsea. This episode literally would not have been possible without you. Also, for the record, thank you to the people we invited to be on the show who couldn't be on due to either scheduling reasons or legality reasons. Completely
Which
understand.
is,
And we'll have
yeah,
all those people on
I would say that's
separately.
understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have them all on separately to talk about things that they feel more comfortable and safe about discussing at some point.
Right.
But yeah.
They're all wonderful people. We love them
Yeah.
very much.
So the first thing I asked everyone to talk about was just generally their experience with trolling. And I'm gonna try to go in the same order throughout. So we're gonna start again with Mike. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, so when it comes to trolling on the internet, I've been kind of fortunate enough to not really have to deal with too much of the trolling. I've come across a couple demo videos of my products where people have been kind of had their opinions on my products, but other than that, I haven't really had to deal too much with people either trashing or bringing down my company's name. But on the same coin, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and online forums, and I definitely see a lot of trolling online.
So that was kind of the bulk of his response there. And one of the reasons I started with him is I feel like kind of the order of that's going to be kind of important later on for the discussion of things.
Alrighty.
Yeah, but it sounds like Mike's kind of gotten off easy with trolls. He is more of a boutique builder, so I think people in general tend to be more kind to people who are still a little bit under the radar. And he's not ever saying anything too controversial or incendiary on his social feeds. He really just keeps it to his products, clean and simple, cool looking pedals, sweet designs, Dayton, Ohio, represent.
Yeah, it's always good to have someone from Ohio on the podcast, just because, if nothing else, I know you're excited about it.
Likewise with Californians.
Heck yeah, which is who we have up next, I do believe.
It is. Let's go see what Ryan's trolling experience has been like.
Typically, it's just people saying things they would never say to your face or to anyone else in real life. I mean, I hope they wouldn't, because it's so often it's just so over the top. It's ridiculous. Oh man, I get people basically telling me to kill myself because they didn't like something I said about an amplifier or a pedal or something like that. We're talking about, pieces of equipment that cost hundreds of dollars and no one actually has to buy, but it gets people so worked up that they feel the need to do whatever they can to just tear someone down as far as they can. It's really pretty spectacular.
Yeah. What'd you think about that one?
Uh, Between that and what I know of Ryan's experience, I know he gets a kick out of some of it, but I know some of it just definitely crosses a line for himself. And
He,
I don't think
yeah.
he's exaggerating. I've seen some of the comments on 60 Cycle Hunt videos,
hmm
and I don't. He's not exaggerating when he's saying people walk right up to the line of telling him to kill
Oh,
himself,
totally. And it
and
was
that's
it was so insane just over a year ago when he was testing out that mono case on that terrible Epiphone guitar he'd spent his money on. And I'm sorry, it wasn't a mono
hmm
case, it was a music area case. I got to get his sponsors right because not that it's my job. Um so a case company, a gig bag company asked him to, test out the durability of one of their gig bags. He's like, "Yeah, sure. I have this guitar I worked a lot on, got a lot of video views on. Uh, hate it. Let me use this." And he didn't even promise to destroy it. He just said, "I'm testing a case. I'm going to test it under some escalating conditions, and if it lives, it lives. If it dies, it dies." And people lost their nut. People kept saying, "Oh, give it to a kid. Give this awful guitar to a kid." And I said, a little bit of trolling here, I will donate $200 in Ryan's name to Rain City Rock Camp for Girls if this guitar gets destroyed. If. And from that, we started a GoFundMe, and he got to see in every single video, if you want to see some good come out of this guitar, put your money where your mouth is, donate to the GoFundMe, teach kids some music. And we raised $1,000. And he threw the
nice.
guitar off a bridge at the end, which was pretty great.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So that's kind of Ryan's experience with trolls in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, I would say my assessment of that overall is kind of frustrating, but amusing, and I don't think it. I get the impression that's really heavily interfered with his business.
Mm. Well, we'll talk about that more when we talk about
I mean,
yeah.
maybe I'm understating his experience. I don't know.
I don't know. But he'll talk about the trolling more. So I think we gotta
Yeah, I'm
see
really
what else he
curious to
says.
hear
Yeah.
Julie Robbins.
I've been very fortunate not to have any experience with trolls personally, but running our Earthquaker social media accounts, I have encountered a lot of trolls. I think it's this inclination to just say, I guess, the first thing that you think all the time, even if it's really, really lame. I don't take things too personally if it's dislike of the pedal that we're featuring. That really doesn't bother me. I know that not everybody is going to like every pedal. It is kind of lame, it can really knock the wind out of your sails, but the things that really drive me crazy are when people attack the artists that we feature. Because music is totally everybody's taste is different. So you can't say somebody's like a terrible musician just because you don't like their music or any kind of nasty thing just because you don't like them. So yeah, we get a lot of things like that. We also have a transgender demo artist who really overwhelmingly is supported by our community. But there is occasionally someone who will just feel the need to comment on everything. That's a man. That's a man. That's a man. Um, and on most platforms, you're able to like block somebody. But on YouTube, it's actually pretty hard. I'll notice that I'll report it, block it, and then it'll pop back up. That's so lame.
I'm with her on
Yeah.
that. That's beyond lame.
After last week's episode, you know how I feel about that. I'm not a fan.
No, it's pretty gross. I think it's interesting to see Julie's experience with trolls with a much larger pedal brand compared to Mike's. People, I think, feel more comfortable trashing something that's bigger or they have more visibility. I mean, they're both guitar pedal companies from Ohio. One's big, one's a little growing company, but their experiences are just night and day.
Right, right. I think it's really unfortunate that that they're going after the Earthquaker artist. That's really a shame to hear.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I reached out to Julie, actually, because I remember, you know, the guitarist Vanessa Wheeler? She's
Yeah.
phenomenal. But and
Hmm.
the way I discovered her as a player was Earthquaker posted a video of her using their pedals at, I think, a Winter NAMM. And most of the comments were like, "Oh wow, she's great," and some dude just kept commenting really sexist stuff about it. And their community was so defensive of someone that they don't know, but they seem to have at least fostered a community where people were defending these demo artists on their own.
Right, right. And that's really good. That's the kind of stuff that we want to see from folks
Hmm.
is stand up for each
Yeah,
other. And
especially
I think
dudes.
that's super cool.
Dudes stand up for women. Straight people stand up for your LGBT plus brothers and sisters. Cisgendered people stand up for your transgendered brothers and sisters. Like, it's it should be easier than it seems to be. That was a side tangent.
No, no, you preach. Go for it.
I'm gonna go to Chelsea now, and I don't remember. This might be a bit of a longer one, but please, please, please listen to it. I edited it myself. Yeah, let's go for it.
There are two types of trolling that I've come across online. And one is, I think, fairly common for most people. And they've probably experienced it on and off the screen. In fact, it's kind of a type of a person. And in my opinion, this type of person is actually poisoning the growth of the artisan world. And that is the classic know-it-all, the intellectual bully that goes out of their way to try and discredit you over some micro detail. These people get so worked up over one thing. Maybe it's a word or a number that didn't sit well with them. So they use that one thing to discredit all of who you are. These type of people are so aggravating. And regardless of how celebrated they are, their level of expertise, this kind of interaction to have with them online actually exposes all of their insecurities. And so it can be really sad to see somebody that you've maybe respected or want to get to know, to kind of, they go out of their way to treat you like that. So I just kind of actually, at this point, try and stay away from people like that. I don't want to be their pawn in any way. And of course, kind of the second one is fairly classic, I think, to a lot of females, is the sexist bully. These are the type of people that try to distract or discredit me by placing focus on my sexual organs, right? So, and I'm not quite sure. I mean, there is definitely different levels of sexist remarks that happen, and some are well intentioned, and some are just really awful. So maybe some well intentioned ones, for example, would be somebody saying, "Wow, I didn't know a girl could do this," and even though that's well intentioned, that's still that's distracting from what I'm actually sharing and placing enthusiasm on the fact that I have a vagina. And really that has nothing to do with me teaching a technique or anything based on my technical skills. And that's usually what I post. Also, I think the term girl being used for a grown woman is a little distracting and very much discredits type of experience that is involved in growing up. But I think that's innocent. You know, I try not to, I don't really get offended when that happens, but I do want to bring it up because it is something that I'd like to see changed. You know, if you are surprised that a woman is doing something that you've never seen a woman do, you don't necessarily have to express it because that actually detracts from normalizing it. Yeah. I mean, there's different ways of celebrating it, and I think it can be done in more intellectual ways than just saying, wow, I didn't know a girl could do this, you know? And of course, really, you have kind of the vulgarity of those comments too. People putting emphasis on, you know, breasts or mouth or, you know, what they would do to me or or things like this, and that's just gross. You know, that kind of crosses the line of you know, Stumac YouTube channels or technical YouTube channels are not porn sites, and nobody really cares about what gets you off.
Yeah, there was a lot in there that just had me nodding pretty vigorously and going, "Ugh," at the same time.
Yeah, and you know, just as a side note, I'd like to take this moment to say that you're pretty good at guitar, you know, for a girl. It's a joke.
Yeah, I've heard
Because
worse.
that's the kind right. That's the kind of stuff that I've seen on female artists' pages on Instagram.
Mhm.
And something I've seen is comments I've seen are like, "You're pretty good for a girl," and like something stuff along that line that just really bothers me. I think she totally nailed it with her description of the sexist troll.
And the intellectual bully. I feel like that's a big one.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
honestly, I see that a lot more just because I'm looking at men's pages typically. Like there a lot of the demo guys are dudes, so even they get the intellectual bully sometimes. Like if you mention Tonewood, some guys are going to come at you and say that's not a thing.
it's a myth. Yep,
Yeah.
I mean it's totally a myth. Didn't you know that?
Mm.
If you made a guitar out of styrofoam, it would sound exactly the
I would
same.
like to tell Kevin Equits that. He and I have talked about that. Like the material
um,
doesn't matter. All right, all right, all right, all right. I think it matters if you're doing it right, but whatever. We'll get into that. Please don't intellectually troll me. I don't give a I don't care. I caught myself.
yep.
Um, yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting distinction that she makes. I really like the categorization that she just made.
yeah, and I know that like
Um,
sometimes she's had comments on her videos where people will leave in the comments like, "Oh, pause at this point to see like down her shirt a little bit." Yeah, and I've seen
gross.
some with other women playing guitar that focus around the mouth, which somehow feels more gross. So that's just a an
I
awful
just,
reality about being a
I
woman, really.
yeah, and that's really unfortunate. I don't know, and like, you know, there's other places on the internet you can see that. Like, I'm not saying like I'm all for it, but I'm just like, don't don't harass someone that's clearly not trying to do weird things
Uh,
on camera. They're just trying to
It's
play
like I
guitar, you
always
know.
like Ryan Burke always says like no one cares what gives you a tickle in your pants. Like nobody cares.
No one cares what
No,
tickles your
nobody
pickle.
cares except for like the person who actually wants to do that. So maybe have a conversation with them about it. If like if seeing a lady playing guitar gets you hot, like that's for the record, that's fine. You can't really help what your kink is, but you can help how you communicate that to women who are playing guitar, which is to say you should not. You should not communicate that. And
And
I've had this issue
time and a place.
I've had this
Time.
issue where I was talking about sort of objectifying women in videos and whatever, and a guy messaged me and said, I was really thinking about like what you said, and I was just thinking about myself and how, because dudes make it about themselves. um and I was just watching this
What?
video, and I got titillated. I'm like, I don't care, this is literally what I am talking about. I am literally saying, do not tell women unsolicitedly what gets you hard. Do not do that. What makes you think that is okay? Talk to the woman in your life who cares about that. If you, again, just say, it would be really sexy if you like held this guitar, maybe learn how to play it a little bit. Like that would really do it for me. That's cool. Dope. Do that. I don't care. Don't tell other women you don't know who do not want to stroke your dick that your dick is hard.
Yeah, I think that's I think this is where we start getting into the what I think is a philosophical concept that plays into this whole discussion is it protected speech or is it harassment? And I think a lot of this kind of behavior is flat out harassment. Honestly, if you were to say half the stuff I see in videos on comments on videos, if that were to be said in the workplace, any decent HR
Oh,
department
you
is
get
going to
fired.
be
Oh,
taking some
totally.
fired or
Yeah.
significant follow up action.
Absolutely.
And to clarify, that's for a decent company, and I'm not going to assume everyone does work for a decent company with an HR
Right.
department
But
with
like
morals.
if saying something would get you
But
completely like I don't know. Just because I don't want to say that you should never ever say something that would get you fired from work, because like if you're in the privacy of your own home, yeah, sure, do it. But in this day and age, if you're saying something on the internet publicly, like not in a private group, but publicly on someone's video that's public, on a Facebook post that's public, and you say something awful, and if it's something that if it got back to your boss, you would be in trouble, maybe just think about it, not doing that.
yeah, I'm gonna make the not. I mean, it does, but yeah, I'm gonna make the assumption, and I think I'm right, completely right here. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I'm safe to make the assumption that a lot of this counts as harassment and is not remotely protected
No,
free speech in the United
especially if
States of
it's
America.
targeted and repeated. Like,
And I know that other countries have
yeah.
laws against this, frequently much more
Yeah.
involved laws that address online
Yeah, I mean,
harassment.
harassment really is, I think one of the things is it has to be like repeated. Like someone who's commenting on every single one of a woman's videos, saying nasty stuff, like some of the people I spoke with privately, like that's borderline stalking. It's definitely harassment, which is not protected under free
Right.
speech. And I'll probably say this a lot in my life and on this podcast. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from any consequences of your speech. And freedom of speech does not apply necessarily to privately owned or even publicly owned platforms. Um, like Facebook can delete your comments if they violate their terms of service. So it's not this like holy grail that you hold up and you're like, aha, well, freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want with no repercussions and no one can stop me. Yes, people can stop you.
Yeah, man, that's my right, man. Like you can't take
Yeah,
away my
because
rights. Like I didn't vote
your
for
right
that,
to just
man.
be an unsolicited dick, figuratively and literally, on the internet, not exactly what the founding fathers had in mind when they were talking about freedom of speech or freedom of persecution from speech. That might be a digression.
It's like I'm just like I'm a dude, man. Like I can't control my urges, you know.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Classic argument. I've never rebuted that one. Well, let's go with let's go on.
Yeah,
So the next
let's go on.
question, I believe the gist of it, I don't have the exact phrasing, but like, what did you do? What did you
In
do about the trolling?
summary,
How'd you react? How'd you react, Mike?
So when it comes to trolling, I think the best method is to not respond. Um, Now, if you do decide to respond to a troll, I think the best way is, you hear the statement, kill them with kindness. That's kind of been my approach with them when, it comes to my Instagram post or even just any type of post I do. If there's any kind of opposition posed towards, whatever I posted, usually I try to even it out with some kindness, and yeah, that's kind of been my approach. And but yeah, when it comes down to the hardcore trolls, I just choose to avoid. So I think that's the best thing you can do.
So, Mike's idea of killing them with kindness is, I think, the sweetest and purest thing.
I think I don't want to spend too much time talking about his response because I think there's going to be more to say about his response in comparison to the other responses
Mm-hmm.
coming up. And I don't know that for sure because I, honest to God, have not listened to this. But I think what's going to really start to highlight the differences across the perspectives from the four people we've
Yeah.
got on this is uh, how comfortable they feel responding and how those responses have worked. And I think that's going to really highlight the difference of
Yeah.
severity
And I think that
of
this
their
is the
encounters.
first question that really will illuminate why I put these in the order in which I put them.
Yeah. Mike's response is incredibly
Mm-hmm.
pure. I love it, and in an ideal world, that is the
Oh,
best way to do. I
totally.
mean, that's customer
Mm-hmm.
service 101. I mean, that's every retail job I've ever had is well, if someone's being a jerk, you kind of smile through your
Yeah,
teeth and you just deal with it. Um,
absolutely. And I think that it speaks
and
to his personal experience, which he himself said was pretty limited.
right. But yeah, like you said, I think that's going to be illuminated as we go through this.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Let's get to
What
Ryan.
say you, Ryan?
Generally, like, these are kind of my ideas on how to interact with trolls. First of all, you just don't ever let them get the best of you. Don't let them elicit any sort of emotional response out of you. You got to keep the high road, and you've got to kind of act like you're talking to like a toddler or a child in a way, like a child that's just said something completely over the top and inappropriate, and you get down on your knees and you look them in the eye and you're like, let's talk about this. Let's talk through this and figure out why you said this thing. I mean, it really is a game of control. If you can keep control of yourself and keep control of the way you're talking to the person and not sink down to their level, then you're just going to end up frustrating them over time, and they're just going to disappear, and they're not going to want to engage with you anymore. If you give them, you know, the satisfaction of getting a rise out of you, then they're just going to keep coming back, in certain ways to keep getting that high that they're experiencing as far as eliciting a response out of someone. So you don't want to give them that unless you do want to keep them commenting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's how Ryan deals with trolls, and I really loved when he said you gotta treat them like like a child, like a toddler who just did something bad.
That was my
Yeah,
favorite part. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I love that. I really like that because as you're preparing for this episode, something that I remember saying is that a lot of the behavior is just very impish, like
Mm-hmm.
child toddler like, just kind of people throwing hissy fits, like just kind of just around like you're
Mm-hmm.
ugly
Well, I hate you.
and like that kind of level of
Yeah.
you looked at your fretboard, you must not know how to play the
Mm-hmm.
guitar very well. Like just kind of that level of that snotty toddlerness that every toddler
Yeah.
ever has exuded. And I really like how he brought it to that level. Good
Yeah.
job, Brian.
Though
I
I
like
will
that.
say, like, it really is spoken like someone who's never had like that inkling of this person could hurt me in the back of their mind. And that's kind of what I got both from the responses of the men who participated in this. And that's not a knock on them. Like, it's so far from it. Um, but yeah.
Right.
And
I
we
think
haven't talked about like the effect that, because I asked everyone like what effect did it have on you. So we haven't gotten to that question yet. That is coming up in the next part of the series. But I think that you can kind of gauge people's overall effects by how they respond or recommend responding to trolls.
right. I think before we move on to the other two real quick, I think it's important to note that the concern that I hear out of both Mike and Ryan's responses is how it makes yourself look. It's about how they appear in their responses, and I think that's one of the primary concerns that I heard
Which is
out of those
fair. It's a fair
responses.
concern.
And
Yeah.
oh, absolutely, 1,000. I'm
Mhm.
not digging that. Sorry, I'm
Oh,
not taking a
totally.
dig
I
at
got
that.
you. I
Rather,
just wanted to clarify it for the
not
listeners
remotely.
out there.
Right. So I'm not taking a dig at their experience and what they're concerned about in their response whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that's incredibly rational and reasonable and very well measured. I think there's a serious level of maturity
Absolutely.
there
I
regarding
love their
both of them,
responses.
and
Yeah, I love
I
their
applaud that.
responses. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really interested to hear what the other responses are because I'm not convinced, based on what I know, the framework I have to go off of, that's going to be the sole concern that the other two are going to have in what factors
Yeah.
into their
Let's get into
decision
that.
making. I think this is where the waters start getting muddier with the sexist
Yeah. Let's get
trolls.
into it.
We have like incredibly supportive fans who will go after, anybody that says anything silly. So sometimes, somebody might say, "Oh, this music sucks. This person sucks." And a lot of times a whole bunch of people will come out of the woodwork to tell them they're wrong. And maybe even go so far as to like post links of other examples of them playing and things like that. And every once in a while, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry." And I'm like, "That's awesome," because I didn't even need to do anything. Um, Only occasionally have I personally really gotten involved with it. Um, and then usually I'll like wake up in the morning and delete all of it. And it's usually I'm saying something like, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, basically.
Oh, there's so much I love about that response, especially that it kind of echoes Ryan's and treated them like a toddler, though she goes back and removes it later.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it if you're just calling it for what it is, it's very childlike behavior and not in like the
Yeah,
good
like
timid
a good
sense.
sense of childlike behavior, childlike wonder, like the good things, like the purity, not the
Right.
snottiness. I didn't take a nap for some reason today, and my snack thing only had 5 gummies in it instead of 6. Yeah, so I'm gonna be mean
Right.
to everybody. And so that's kind of what it feels like, but it's the same thing I mentioned before. Just what I've noticed is the community rising up, and again, that kind of gave the same vibe of not letting the trolls get the best of you.
Right. I get the vibe from that one of not letting the trolls get the best of you and kind of just I guess I mean it just kind of is what it is, and I'm glad that there's other people to help sort it
Absolutely.
out. Is kind of the vibe I just got from Julie on that, and I think it's super rad that uh, my favorite part of that whole bit right there is Julie describing the community of folks that are
Hmm.
standing up for each other, and shout out to whoever's involved in that and who's been on the Earthquaker pages and is tearing down trolls and saying no, we're
Yes.
not going to put up with that, because I think that's an important part of what it takes to combat that. Is like, no, we're not
Yeah,
going to put up with that.
totally.
Screw you.
All right. I'm not sure we'll get to this question. I asked uh, Ryan and Julie about their general policy, and ultimately I thought the answers were a little similar. But Julie also added that the second you say something transphobic or anything like that, you're gone. They will beat you. They will beat you. They will delete you. They will ban you, block you, whatever. Like you, that's a zero tolerance policy.
Zero
Yeah,
tolerance
and
policy.
yes,
Jinx.
and Ryan said something similar about the R word. Like if you start messing with people with developmental disabilities on Ryan's page, you're
Oh, that
gone.
R word.
You're
Yeah,
gonna have to text me what
no.
R word you thought I meant.
I didn't think of any. I was like, wait, what's the R? And then
Ah,
as soon as you, that just took me. That word's just so far out of my vocabulary. I don't remember the last time I've heard that actually.
I think it stopped being. People started realizing how offensive it was when I was in like 9th grade, 10th grade, and it's the easiest one to remove from your vocabulary because once you hear yourself saying it, you can just change the word that you're saying. Like
Right,
it's
right.
just ridiculous.
Yeah,
So then I
and
started calling. So now ridiculous is my insult of choice. If I'm like that's ridiculous, I sound like a mom.
no, you sound like John Mulaney. That's
And
ridiculous.
I don't know if that's better, dude.
I was watching John Mulaney last night, and
I
so
think
good.
that's him imitating a mom.
It's possible. Uh,
Yeah.
no, I remember on the topic of that. I remember in middle school, I didn't really know what the word meant, and I just kind of used it because I was in middle school, and that was the cool, like, edgy thing to do. And I remember when someone finally explained it to me, I was horrified. Like, I've been
Right.
saying, what?
Yeah.
Oh boy,
I feel
I have
I
a
feel like
lot of
most kids
apologies to
have
make.
that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of kids have at least one experience with that kind of word. But again, that's the common theme. People saying things that they hear somewhere else and not giving any thought or looking into what it actually means.
Right, right.
Yep. Common theme because it just happens all the time.
All right.
And the same thing is good for a girl is one of those things. Or I never seen a girl shred like that. But I digress. But that brings us back to Chelsea. What do you say, Chelsea?
And I think also our online culture has kind of trained us to think, well, that's just some sad person who lives in their mom's basement, who has nothing better to do, and so you just should feel sorry for them and just ignore them or banter, because bantering and trolling, they're fun. It's a fun thing to do, to get a rise out of people and really manipulate the situation. And I'm just the type of person where I am who I am, and so I don't think that it's going to change anything, and I don't think it's right, and it doesn't really sit well with me to kind of ignore things like that. I also know that people aren't like me, and so as soon as I would to comment back or stand up for somebody online, that's all they need. That's all they need to just try and defend their pea-brained, emotional response. So they're low-browed bullshit. So you can't even really do that, right? Because you don't get the rouse or the social context, as if you were to be in an actual conversation, and get that group shunning going on of like, dude, what you just said was wrong, and then see everybody else's reaction around it to help them gauge that this isn't really okay. So you don't really get that kind of interaction. So to be quite honest, I don't give them the benefit of the doubt of just ignoring them and feeling sorry for them. I delete their comments. I block them. I unfriend them. I don't want to be a victim of that type of person. And especially with my publications and my videos, everything I put out is to kind of open up the conversation and to open up one way of thinking, to 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 add to other ways of thinking, right? Kind of the whole idea behind Guitars and Caffeine is there is multiple ways of doing things. And there's no reason why we can't all be learning and growing together in different ways. And so I really find that, especially the intellectual bully, is extremely distracting to people who just want to ask questions and who just want to feel comfortable with not knowing everything. And so I do. And the thing is like, I am not trying to surround myself with like-minded people. That is not my intention at all. But there are ways of going about conversations, and there is an etiquette, and there is a level of respect that I ask for and that I put out, that I give everybody. And I just think it's too tacky to add to, when somebody just tries to blatantly disrespect somebody else based on a word or a number or something like that. So the culture that I'm trying to build in our industry and what I'm trying to help foster is this comfort of using, whatever level of education you have this comfort of asking questions and this comfort of learning from people who might not be at your level. Maybe they have less experience, but they do something differently. Their brain works in a different way. And really just allowing those kind of nasty intellectual bullying comments and those sexist comments onto your feed doesn't add anything for the audience. What I do isn't to get attention from the media. I'm not they say even bad publicity is good publicity. I'm not into that. I'm not trying to get aroused from people or start an argument. I'm trying to create this kind of safe way of learning and growing and sharing. So I don't have any patience for people who kind of just are too selfish to realize that my life isn't about them, or everybody else's life that is into what's going on isn't about them. There is a huge difference between trying to discredit somebody and trying to talk with them. I cannot express this enough. Maybe if I put it this way, the difference is defined by you knowing that you aren't the only one who has valuable experiences that have created success. It's that simple. I think that's a simple concept. I think it is. We'll see.
There's a huge difference between talking to someone and trying to discredit them. I love that. Um,
There was a lot in there to love.
a lot to unpack. Yeah, I think a takeaway I've got from that, just right off the bat, is I've got two actually. It's the first off, it's the oh, we should just feel sad for trolls and they just live in their mother's basement and all that. And first of all, nothing wrong with that because the economy is what the economy is and housing is expensive.
Are you just saying that because you're about to live with your mother?
Well, actually, no. My mom's moving. I've got the opposite thing. A lot of people I went to college with, like,
Your mom's gonna be living with you.
right, is
Right.
yeah, I've got the opposite thing going on. She's coming to move in with us, but um, no, but like I'm not being facetious. I'm being dead serious. One, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
In all honesty, if that is what it is, and if money's tight, I get it.
it's hard.
Two,
But yes, go on.
my greater point here is this kind of just building up of this idea of a troll is just some pathetic lowlife, and that's not always the case. I mean, these are real people. It's not like we just like classist, like use the classist argument of just kind of like stereotyping them, kind of filing them away as like whatever, no big deal. Because there is a range of them. There's people from all walks of life, and there's people. I mean, as we've discovered, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get into the detail that I would want to in a limiting sense. But I mean, we've mentioned in a couple of different points this episode that there's people that we asked to interview who are dealing with litigation, and that's why they can't interview. And there's a huge range here, and so just I think just a word of caution for people who just want to who are giving an umbrella statement of oh well they just live in their mom's basement and they're sad and pathetic and we should really feel sad for them. And I don't want to give them that cop out. I don't want to give them that leeway, and I certainly don't want to give the impression that there's just your garden variety trolls and that's just kind of the end of it.
Yeah, and there are people like that, and I think they'd probably be people you don't expect. I'm sure that there are people that you work with who, in their free time, troll people online. That's just statistically, it's likely.
It's a hobby,
Um,
right?
yeah, it's a hobby. It's what they do for kicks, and it's
Right.
like not great. But sometimes it's benign, and sometimes it's not. And like the only way that I feel sad for trolls, and this is legitimate, and I've talked about this with friends of mine, is that that they're just such miserable people because no one who is happy behaves that way.
I mean, maybe on the benign troll side of things, you could roll it as just they're just having a little bit of fun, but certainly on the other end. But I don't know if I'd even agree with that though, because I mean, in the research I did, we're talking about sociopaths here. There's literally a level of sociopathy that's exhibited, and along with that, a high likelihood that sociopaths are the ones engaging in some of the more intense behavior on the spectrum. And
Mm-hmm.
that's frightening. I can't chalk that
Yeah.
up to just they're sad and pathetic and like they
Yeah.
must be miserable with their lives. Maybe this is what they're really enjoying, and that's honestly more frightening than anything else we've talked about.
Yeah.
But to lighten
But
the subject,
their souls are rotten though. Like that's rough. Like that's gotta. It's like, aren't they tired?
I would like to think so. It's hard to say for sure. Something that
Yeah.
I would like to point out is, I guess my experience with the intellectual know-it-all type of troll. I've seen this actually. Now that I'm kind of thinking and reflecting on it throughout the episode, is I've seen this fairly frequently on gear forums, and so I
Yeah.
moderate worship guitar sounds, and what we see frequently is uh, new players. Frequently, I see this kind of behavior from on posts that new players from non-Western countries that are making posts about like, oh, well, what should I do about this, or how can I learn? And people just make ruthless fun of these people. I'm like,
Why?
whoa,
Why?
right? And we do our best at WGS to try and moderate that. Be like, no, I don't
Mm,
care if it seems like it's the Nigerian prince trying to get a free handout. Like, come on,
That's not funny.
right? Like, I really don't like. I don't put up with that kind of stuff, and um, yeah, and so I'm starting to the way that Chelsea described that behavior is like, oh, you know what? I do kind of know that, but it's never really targeted at me, and so that doesn't
Yeah.
strike me as something terribly personal.
Exactly.
I'm just a
Yes,
bystander
exactly.
for 98%, 99.9% of the trolling I encounter. I'm just
Yeah.
a bystander, and of that 99.9%, I'd be hesitant to put a number on it. But there's probably a decent chunk I don't even realize what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. And you
So
are very much in a position to uh stop it in a lot of ways.
I'm also in a position to scroll harder on the flip side of that, which uh, I feel like I have a responsibility to not. But
Yeah, I know in 60 Cycle Hum, scroll harder is a big thing that they use, but they almost are more likely to use it in the opposite way.
right,
Like
right, right.
it's like instead of leaving the trolling comment on someone's perfectly benign post, scroll past it. And then if something bad happens, then the community, like if someone is posts a sexist meme, the community's gonna jump in and be like, no, stop it. Stop it. No.
No.
So no, no, stop it. No. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, anything else about yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I know that's what scroll harder is typically referred to, but I mean, that's just me pointing out that I have the privilege of choosing, like, yeah, that's not my problem. I'll move on instead of standing up for other people. And
Yeah.
I sometimes I do that consciously, sometimes I do that unconsciously, and so I'm like, I don't really want to deal with this right now.
Mm,
Not my monkey, not my circus. And part of the other part is like, well, maybe I should try to be more aware of that, keep my eyes peeled as I'm scrolling through, just uh, kind of just cruising through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever the kids are into these days.
yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not going to throw a hard line out here and say everyone should be doing X, Y, and Z, but I think what I will say is I almost want to challenge myself over the next couple of weeks as we're thinking about this, that maybe I should start being a little bit more vocal as I kind of just see stuff at will and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
How far can I take my voice to help make a positive impact for those who are getting tossed around by the trolls?
Nice. I like that. But sometimes some of the advice there is not really necessarily things that you can help with because if someone's just trolling to be a dick, like if you comment and feed them, they're going to get worse. Like Chelsea said, I just delete them.
Right, right. Um, my favorite response to like sexist trolling I've seen lately is someone responded, "Acting like a dick doesn't make yours harder."
Ha! Or bigger,
What
stronger, faster, maybe faster.
is this, a Kanye song?
uh,
um, but yeah,
maybe.
That was
Speaking of, never mind.
no. We're not even gonna. Don't go there. Maybe next episode we can prepare for more Kanye talk, but I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah. No, and that's the end of the first part of the questions and answers that we got.
Yeah, we've got another round of questions and answers for the second half, and I haven't listened to them, and I will not have listened to them when we record the next episode, which is I I
Not
hate
right
this because
now.
no,
Not right now.
we're not recording this back to back actually, which part of me wants to do it because now I'm like, oh, I want to hear the rest. I want to hear the rest. So
I mean, we could.
no, I
Yeah,
really
I
can't.
would like to go. I would like to go to bed
Uh, but yeah,
and
there's
think about it. And I'm sure that, and I feel like that if we went and did it right now, we wouldn't be able to reflect on what
right.
we've
I
heard.
feel
I think
like
that
there's a
once we
lot.
go through
Oh,
and
I'm
edit this
actively
episode,
chewing on
yeah,
all of this right now. Like I've got like so much
yeah,
chewing. Like you know that feeling when like you're eating steak and you like take too big of a bite and you're like, crap. I don't know like how I'm gonna chew through all of this. That's kind of how I feel right
yeah,
now. But
yeah.
I guess my big takeaways are the takeaway I kind of figured I was gonna take away going into this is that there's a wide breadth of experience from folks, and
Hmm.
so for the I guess my challenge is for guys uh, who don't experience the same level of trolling that other people do. Believe other people when they say, "Yeah, actually, I kind of like was fearing for my life because they had tracked down like my family members and were like
Yeah.
figuring out my address and threatening to
Hmm.
harm me, like come kill me." Like, believe that that's the kind of crazy sociopathic stuff that happens, and just
I
because that
mean,
hasn't
women,
happened to
yeah.
you,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not
women
hysterics. It's
literally,
not being dramatic. Like this kind of shit really
no.
happens, and
Yeah.
so
I
that's
mean,
one big takeaway for me is don't just because it's not your experience, don't discount the experience of others. Listen. Um,
listen. Yes.
so I think that's a big takeaway I have from this episode is that there's a whole lot going on here, and I think
Yeah.
the other big encouraging takeaway for this is um, I'm really hung up on what Julie was saying about how that they've got some loyal fans who will stand up for other people, and I think that's
Hmm.
great for the brand, and I want to see that not just for the brand, but I think we see this in a lot of ways. I want to see it more so, just as a community.
Yes,
So
as a whole,
right,
wherever it happens, we need to be there. And well, maybe not everyone's going to agree with me on my. Can people accuse me of white knighting? Can I be my own white knight? I'd actually like that.
I'm not going
I'd
to tell
really
you how
like
to live
that.
your life.
I want to be my own white knight.
That sounds like your next album title.
My own white knight. I like that.
There you
I'm into
go.
it. Yes. Yeah, so the other thing I just want to say, it's very likely that this episode part 1 will drop before we record part 2. Yeah.
That's probably likely, yeah.
Yeah. So everyone listening to this, if you've made it this far, firstly, thank you for your service. Secondly, let us know what you thought. I can't ask people more questions than I've already asked them, but if you have questions for us that you want us to kind of get into or discuss, or if you have any feedback and like that, shoot us some text messages somewhere, and we'll maybe read some of those. And you know, I would say send us an audio recording, but I don't think that's the cleanest way to do this.
No, I wish I
Yeah,
had time to go through and listen to everyone's voicemails.
yeah.
I don't.
But we can read messages on Facebook and Instagram
Yeah, shoot us
threads.
messages on the Instagram. Track us down personally on our accounts and send us messages
No,
that
no,
way.
no, 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 no.
No,
Please don't.
no.
I'm sorry. Like, don't message me personally, please, please. I
Okay.
respect you
Don't.
all. Thank you for listening. But if you send me a private message on Facebook, just for my own security, I'm not gonna read it. Sorry. Have had weird things happen. No offense to anybody. I'm sure you're
And
great.
another example of how comfortable you are versus how comfortable I am based on experience.
Yeah, but if you want to have a conversation in the Facebook group about things and like ask me if you want if to take a conversation private, I might. So just ask before sending my personal account direct messages, please.
Okay, yeah,
It
that's
makes me
totally
feel a
fair.
little weird. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I guess if anything else, the sentiment I'm trying to get across is we are available. Hit us up. We want to have these conversations.
Yeah, and we want to know what you all think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Well,
thought you were gonna do the voice too. No.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's late, and I have an early bike ride scheduled for tomorrow.
Oh, I almost forgot one of the most important things. How could I forget?
Go.
Our sponsor for this episode is Jennings Guitars.
Oh, shoot! That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jennings Guitars, we'll just keep this short and sweet. Chad is one of the sickest dudes on the planet, and I don't say that just because I have to. I don't even have to say that. I'm saying that
No, you
because I
don't.
want to.
You don't have
Chad
to
is
say anything.
no Chad's honestly, honest to goodness, super rad. I've really enjoyed getting to know the guy, and go buy one of his guitars. It's less than the cost of like a lot of the made in America Fenders, and
Mhm.
it's phenomenal quality. But
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have anything more to say. Just do it. Like, what are you waiting for?
Do
Live your
that.
best life now.
Live your best life now.
Name it
All
and
right.
claim it.
Again, this has been the Get Offset podcast. I'm Emily.
I'm Andrew.
Goodbye.
Bye.